Good morning. So in this chapter, what happened? In the gravitation chapter, we are going to bring a new concept or the new idea called like the field or the field force, that one, and the energy associated due to the field. So this idea, what happened, will we're going to take help exclusively in what electrostatics and again in magnetostatics. So the nature like a means like a the study of science where the fields will be involved here. So you can see I am wrote on the subheading the field idea, FIELD, that one. So what do you mean by field? Okay, such questions is what we are going to ask ourselves and we are going to analyze it. So first we'll begin with the Newton's laws of gravitation. This is nothing but like it's a fundamental law. Yes. So first we'll explore this law. Then what happened? We'll propagate to further what is that what the Newton said like that particular law. No? In that law, what are the terms that one? So as we start deeply analyzing the terms now, then our chapter will start growing here. I'll continue now. Now first we'll bring the idea of point masses. What do you mean by point which will not have a volume? No, so like a uh, point. What is the volume of that one? Should be negligible or should be zero. Then only you can say that particular point. No, I think how you define in geometry, point means which will not have zero volume. So like that here, the point mass, we define it. So in general, if you see the body, there's a body. There's a mass of how much? Say like a 10, like a 12 kg. There's a body of mass, 12 kg. Then I can also bring a point mass where the mass of that equal to 12 kg. So what is the volume of this? Negligible. I'm putting a dot, able to understand now? This is a point mass. So to make it visible, I'll just show it like this here. So what is the point? Shall I say further it is undivisible. You cannot divide it further. It's the smallest entity in terms of geometry or anything. If you talk about in terms of mathematics, it is not further undivisible, that one. So you cannot divide it further. So what is the volume of the point mass? Will be zero. Volume of point will be zero. This point mass is something very central for our entire discussion. Means no, so there's a body is having some shape, volume, everything, and is having mass 12 kg. What about point mass? Yes, maybe you can select a dense. It's a like a dense particle because the mass 12 kg is concentrated in a volume. What about here? So the density will be different here. If you take density, rho 1 equal to how much? Mass by volume. What about here? The density will be very high because volume is almost negligible, density will be. So you can call like this is super dense material. So point mass means not like a negligible mass. This is something very important. Point mass means not like a negligible mass. Volume will be zero, that one. So we can have a point mass. Point mass. So this m1 equal to how much? It can be milligram or microgram, 10 to the power of minus 6 kg. Then I can also bring a mass which will be of like a 0.2 kg. I can also have point mass 12 kg like what earlier I'm shown. I can have the point mass Euclid this shall we say this M4 is a super dense material, super dense, because you see such a heavy mass or when is concentrated in a single point, this will become super dense material. So point mass means not negligible mass. Okay, I agree this. The basic idea of the point mass. So what all the Newton's laws of gravitation, what we define now, it is just is describing about the for point masses here. So we will take 2 point masses which are separated by distance r. Then it's telling they are going to interact. They are going to interact. The force of interaction here will be like this here. There's the force of interaction between those two point masses. And this force of interaction, it is directly proportional to product of masses, inversely proportional to square of distance between them. To remove that proportionality, you will introduce a constant called as a gravitational constant. It's an empirical constant, that one. So this particular force of interaction depends upon product of masses, directly proportional product of masses, inversely proportional to square of distance between the point masses here. And what is G? G is a gravitational constant, 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11. Can we write anything? Kg. This what is a force? Force will have Newton meter square per kg square. Further, Newton force what you can write? M into A. So here only we'll try to analyze this one. So what is M? M is a meter square, Newton, kg square, that one. Or you can further write what is M? What is the force equal to mass into acceleration? So this will be kg dimensions. This will be meter per second.
The second square, sir.
So okay, sorry, this one. So this will have dimensions of meter per second square, no? Yeah. Okay, now substitute or just leave it. It's left to you, that one. So what can be further simplification of this? It will be Newton meter square per kg square. Keep it in this way. That will be useful for us. Or meter cube per kg per second. So it's left to you. So or else I'll write it here. Only this unit, or else you convert kg per second meter cube. Either of thing. This is what usually popularly what we use the unit for this. Sometimes they may test you like this also. There's like a gravitational constant. It is determined experimentally. Now what is the thing, like what is this force? So it is having some very characteristics which till now we didn't notice. What are the characteristics? Like it obeys inverse square law. So this force obeys inverse square law. And how do you like this features of F? Will write it. F obeys inverse square law. Next again, it always acts along the line joining the point masses. Next again, one more. It always acts along line joining the point masses. It's a conservative force. F is a later on in depth I'll show that how it's a conservative. Time being I'm just putting a statement here. It's a conservative force. There's a thing. So these are the preliminary things. Okay, later on as I get into the E equal to dou V by dou X, I'll define potential. There few more features will add up that one. Is this central or not? When you get into Kepler's law, there will exclude here. And it's a field force. F is a field force. So now you always maximum, your entire this chapter is what? Trying to understand what do you mean by field. This is what you have to put effort. Now, is it a contact force? No, it's a field force. So are these two point masses in contact? No, they're not in contact. Still, they'll exert a force. I think this is the first time you are coming across here. No, the particles are not in contact. They'll exert force on each other. That's what he's saying. That one, and this particular force weapon will obey the superposition principle will obey the principle of linearity, linearity and superposition principle. What do you mean by that? If I take particles, let me take particles, 3 particles. Let the masses be m, time being. Let me take equal masses here. So let this particle 1, 2, and this is 3. How the force of interaction between 1, 2, it will be like this. Oh, no, this will be 1, 2. Similarly, sorry, this is 1, 3, no? Similarly, what happened? F31 will be like this. F12 will be like this. And F21. This is force experienced by 2 due to 3. Force experienced by 3 due to 1. And they are placed at the equilateral triangle, corners of equilateral triangle. Then when you are calculating F12, so in general, okay, let's first look at F12. What is F12? You are going to write F12 or F21. You're going to write G M1 M2 by L square. F32. Yeah. Now G M1 M2 by L square. So there's the force of interaction between 1 and 2. Look at this particular force of interaction. It is independent of the presence of third mass, presence or absence of third mass. This will not influence the interaction between these two. This is something very fundamental which is going to help us a lot as we proceed. This is called like a principle of how to linearity. That one means the interaction between two objects is independent of the presence or absence of n objects in a system. Means in a system, so what is a system? It contains 3 particles. The interaction between 1, 2 is independent of what? The presence of other particles in the system. Let it not only third, you can bring any other objects here. The presence of the third object will not influence the interaction between 1, 2. This particular force, the interaction between 1, 2 or the pen is independent of this particular presence of this object. Similarly, or we can generalize here, F12 equal to F21, F13 equal to F31 magnitude, F32 equal to F23 equal to G. That's what he's saying. So what is the conclusion I can make it? The interaction between two given point masses is independent of presence of third point mass. This is more generalized. We say the interaction between two bodies is independent of the presence of the third body. It doesn't matter. Now, how to calculate the force on one? Just take the superposition principle. Means you calculate first F12 as if the third point mass is not present. Then again, remove this particular mass. Then you calculate 1, 3. Then take superposition. You get the net force. So what is the net force acting on the, what is F1 bar? F1 bar, you're going to write it as F12 bar plus F13 bar. Agree this? Like this, we can directly write that one. Similarly, what is F2 bar? F21 bar plus F23 bar. Similarly, what is net force acting on this? F31 bar plus F32 bar. So like this is what the method is being suggested. This is called like a superposition principle. I think we need to bother now more than two objects are there. How do that force of interaction? Yes, you calculate first force of interaction between 1, 2, then 1, 3, then take the vector sum, you'll get it. Nothing but I'm calculating 1, 2 as if the third is not present. Then I'm calculating 1, 3 as if 2 is not present. Then I will add up these two. That will be the resultant force acting on the particle 1. This is called a principle of superposition. I think this is what going to help us a lot when we get into numerical, because I can have a system where more than two bodies will be there. Then what to do? We'll just carry on this particular analysis. Okay, now this force is acting. What is this force? Again, all these are field forces. What all we talk about gravitational force is a field force. And what will happen to, because of field force, it will accelerate. If I leave these particles, so what will happen to them? Next question comes. What will happen to them? Is how the force F1 will act. The resultant force F1 will be sir, how do you can say, because F magnitudes are equal, no? And they'll start accelerating. So what is acceleration A1? A1 equal to F1 by M. A2 equal to F2 by M. Means sir, this gravitational force, can it accelerate a charged particle? Yes. It can accelerate, it can retard, it can set up a torque. All again go back to the mechanics. That is what our primary goal. This particular force weapon, it can drag an object, it can exert a force, it can do work also. It will accelerate means then what happens, its speed will increase, no? The speed of particles will increase. The kinetic energy of particles starts increasing. Okay, no? So this is there's a very generalized approach is what we are going to develop here. Sir, is it only three particles? Even if four particles are there, will they interact? Yes, the interaction will continue. Let me put it some masses like this. Need not to exactly equal masses. And I'll give the name 1. Okay, anyway, there's M2M is there. What about the force F12? The force F12 will act like this. The force F14 along line joining. What about force F13? Similarly, here force F21,
Sir, F13, sir.
F13 a symbol. Okay, this one. F24, F23,
Sir, F34, sir.
F34. Yeah, thank you. F42, F43. Now, what about now the forces acting on particles? Will it be same or different? I am asking the net force F1. Is it F1 equal to F2? Need not know. Need not. Will the acceleration of all the particles will be directed towards a center O? Need not. If you calculate the net force on the particle 1, F1 to F14, F14 definitely greater than F12. So somewhere here it may come the resultant. Clear this? I'm just showing, going to show the rough F1 will be somewhere here. Sir, how do you can say? See, F14 will be greater than F12. Roughly that one. Similarly, what happened? F12, F21, and F24 this one. So somewhere it will come like this. What happened? We can find out. And every time need not F1 need not be equal to F2. I can sure say that F1 not equal to F2 not equal to F3 not equal to F4. If you want, you can check it. So I may get particles of same mass or different particles, different mass. Altogether, what happened? How to calculate F1? Next question comes. What is F1 bar? I'll show one. So it should be the vector sum of all the resultant, all the individual forces that are acting. So F13 bar. When you're calculating F12, what to do with 3 and 4? Assume as if they are not there, calculate F12. Then when you're calculating F14, assume as if only 1, 4 are there, 2, 3 not there. So when you're calculating F13, assume that 2, 4 not there, only calculate F13. Then you take the superposition. So what is this F1? When all three are present, what force is acting? The same force is what we are going to get it. I think, tell me like which is the best method? This is the best superposition principle, no? So this is a binding thing, means like this is a core idea which our entire chapter revolves around it. So gravitational force obeys law of superposition principle. Correct statement. This is what happens for you in conceptual question. The small ideas are brought from here. So gravitational force obeys See, you may feel this is something very simple, just mathematics, but our entire physics revolves around the superposition principle. So as we proceed into waves and sound, electromagnetic waves, there you can see that superposition principle is what that will help us to explore the higher levels of physics. Okay, this is about the field. Again, all these are field force. Yes, all the forces F1, F2, F3, what all are there? All they are the field forces here. Okay, after this, I am going to will further explore it. Now I'll take a point mass. There's a fixed point mass. That one. Then I will release a test mass. The same test mass. So this is a fixed point mass. This is called like a test mass here. And now test mass. So you better delta m naught. Some books instead of m naught, no, they're giving delta m naught. I think delta again you'll get confused. So let me put m naught on. Some books they wrote delta m naught. In fact, it's correct mathematically. So what is the test mass? Test mass is m naught. So what is the mass? Negligible. Test mass is what? It's a point mass of negligible magnitude. So what is the mass of this particle? 0.000000000 like that. But it's a non-zero. It's having very small magnitude. It's a imaginary what we are bringing. So I am going to keep such a test mass near a point mass of mass m. Then let's go for Newton's laws of gravitation. So here it explains a force F1. When the same test mass, when I keep it at a distances, it will experience a force F2. Now, what is F1? So we are going to write F1 as G m naught R1 square. What about F2? G m naught by R2 square. So from diagram, it is very clear. R1 less than R2. So F1 greater than F2. I will release this test mass. Anything will happen to test mass here. I think due to force, it will accelerate. Due to acceleration, it acquires speed. Due to speed, increase in speed, its kinetic energy increases. From where this kinetic energy has come? Go back to the exactly straight away the work done. Like if a body, due to force, if it accelerates, speed will increase, kinetic energy increases. So what does it mean? What does it mean? Means like the force is capable of doing work, no? So what you can say, the work done, force into displacement. Okay. I know. How you define work done? Work done as force into displacement. And let there be a displacement. Let there be a small displacement occur. So what is the small displacement? Let me take that as dr. So what is the small displacement? Let it be dr. What is the work done by this force? dw1 equal to F1 into dr. Similarly, work done by the same force on another point mass kept here, which should be equal to F2 into dr. So this particular force, what mean gravitational force, is what capable of doing work, no? Because force into displacement. After some time, what mean this test mass will undergo some displacement. Then what is work done by force? F1 into dr here. So now we have something. F1 greater than F2. So what does it mean? dw1 greater than dw2. So what is this gravitational force? It is doing more work here and it's doing less work here. Let's see, like, sir, is it two test masses you kept? Okay, let's assume that first I'll keep test mass here. Then it does work, dw1. I'll keep test mass here. It does work, that is dw2. So where work done by the gravitational force on test mass will be more at point 1, means this particular force what will happen at different positions it is doing different work, means and it is doing work means it should have energy. It should have energy. Next question comes on how do it will exert a force? There is nothing but a field. I'm introducing the idea of the field. So what actually happening is surrounding the point mass, what you should do, you should assume some sort of a field. So what is this yellow color? This yellow color is what? This yellow color is what? It's called like a field here. So surrounding this particular point mass, there is some sort of field is present, or you can better call sphere of influence. Sir, what is the shape of this? Any shape? So usually in books, they are shown spherical. It's being justified, just like a to make that uniform thinking. There's okay, this is called like a sphere of influence. So what is this yellow color? This I'll call like a field produced by point mass. Any particle, if it lies in that particular field, the field will exert a force, and that force is what the gravitational force is telling. Similarly, what will happen? The particle, the test mass, when it is at 2, yes, it is present in the field of the point mass. So the field will exert a force here. So what is the basic idea? And what happens if test mass lies outside the field? Is where the field is, if there no field exists due to point mass, definitely what happen? There won't be, the field will not exert any force because the field itself is now there, no question of exerting force. So any other body enters a field. So this field what happen will exert a force. This is the nature of the gravitational field. So now what is your entire imagination here? So whenever you get a gravitation, when you enter into a gravitation chapter, so what you should do is like, you must assume some sort of field. So I'm asking you to assume that yellow color. So this particular thing, let it be, I'm asking you to that one. The body, what happen, you assume one green color or something. Then yellow color, what happen, you assume some sort of color surrounding a body. I think you might have seen some movies, no? They show some god like that and some light coming from him. Similarly, the whole gravitation chapter, you should have that imagination. What is that? A body give some red color or green color. Surrounding it, what happen, an yellow color should be there. And what is that yellow color is a field. Like that, every body, what happen, it will produce its own gravitational field. And if any other body enters into that gravitational field, then the field will exert a force. Therefore, this particular F1, F2 or what? The field force. Are they in contact? No. Test mass and point mass, they're not in contact. Still, they'll exert force on each other. But here, what I'm not showing F1 on what? F1 on the point mass. The reason for that, the reason for that, because we are interested what force the test mass will exert. So what is this test mass? It is just brought to check whether is there any field or not. If the test mass, I'll keep here, experience a force. So definitely I can say that yes, it is present in the field of point mass. Now I'll keep it here. It will not experience force. So there's no field due to point mass. So is it okay now? How to check a field is there or not? Just bring a test mass. If it experiences a force, there's some field due to that body. If there's no force acting on it, there's no field. Like that, the field is brought. This particular field weapon is having a ability to do work. So how you can say? Yes, you have enough mathematics. This field is having ability to do work. Then it's having ability to do work means it must possess some energy. So how to express that energy? So I'll introduce a quantity called as gravitational field strength. Gravitational field strength, we denote symbol E, that one. At a point is defined as force experience per unit mass kept at that point. Force experience per unit mass kept at that point. So according to the definition, this should be E, force experience per unit test mass, anything. So let me write only mass here. Then you may think that only test mass it is. It can be any mass. So time being, I'm assuming test mass here. So this should be G M M naught R square into M naught. So this will cancel out. So Gm by R square. What can be unit for this? Next question comes. What should be the unit? Newton per kg. Force is a Newton, mass is a Newton per kg. Later on, as we proceed, I'll give one more big, very good unit. Force by mass, what you can at acceleration. No? This is nothing but also meter per second square. These are the units what will be giving for the gravitational field strength. Is it a vector quantity? Yes, it is. What is the direction of E bar? The direction of E bar should be the direction of F. So if you write in vector form, at a given point, the direction of force explained by test mass kept in that field will be the direction of the force. So therefore, what is the direction of E bar here? The E bar will be in this direction. Along line joining only. So like this happen, we'll introduce a quantity called as the gravitational field strength here. So now what will happen? Slowly the idea of field is brought here. So what we are able to measure? The field strength. So force explained per unit mass here. And now, so you look at that particular formula. Means any body, if it is present in a field, will experience a force. So shall I put like this? This will be much useful for us. If a mass kept in a gravitational field will experience a force. Able to interpret this? Able to interpret this one? If a mass present in a gravitational field will experience a force. How do that force will act? In the direction of E bar. So let me show some rough diagram. So what is the dotted lines? These are the direction of E bar. We don't have still know very exact the definitions of, you can say, the gravitational lines of force. Only for your understanding, I'm just showing there's a uniform gravitational field. What is the magnitude of this E? If I keep any mass here, point mass, in what direction it will experience a force? It will experience force in the direction of the field. Now I'll keep another mass M2 here. Yes, it will experience the force like this. So what is F1 equal to? Mass into E bar. What is F2 equal to? Mass into E bar. I think this is going to help you a lot. And this force, what it does, it will accelerate. If you release this particle here, after some time, it will be here. After some time, it will be here. It will accelerate. Then what is the acceleration of the particle? F by E. And what is E? Somebody will produce. Well, let's not bother now. Sir, who will produce this gravitational field strength? Some object, some body. When the same gravitational field in a uniform gravity. What do you mean by uniform gravitational field? Straight lines parallel to each other. There's a method of showing that particular field here. Now in the same uniform gravitational field, if I project a charge particle, if I project a particle with a speed u, anything will happen to this. I'm slowly trying to build up the application part. Now it will experience a gravitational force. Will I agree? And what is F? F should be equal to me. No, because of force and velocity, what will happen to charge particle? It will deviate. Am I right? And continuously that force will be acting. Similar to gravity, no? So now you are going to get a plenty of numericals of this kind. Means like now I'll take another particle. Okay, I think there's a particle 1. We'll write it. F1. Now, sir, another particle. I'll project it in this direction. Then what direction gravitational force will act? Gravitational force will act in the direction of field. So what happened to this particle? It will undergo retardation, no? Then again it starts moving. Now I'll take another particle. I'll project with a speed u. Then what happen? A gravitational force, what happen, will act here. So it's not that since we have given velocity, it will act irrespective of it. Whether particle at rest or released from rest or projected in the direction of field, opposite to field or at an angle, the gravitational force is what? The mass into the gravitational field strength at that particular point. Since the field is uniform, everywhere the same force will be acting. But here, sir, you are showing different forces F1, F2 because the field is non-uniform. You look at this one due to point mass. So if the field, if at all points in a space, if the direction of E bar is same, and at all points the magnitude is same, the field is said to be uniform. At all points of the E bar is directed towards right. And what is the magnitude? Everywhere is same. So therefore we'll call uniform gravitational field. What do you mean by uniform and non-uniform? Uniform means the magnitude and direction should be same at all points in a space. That's called like a uniform gradient. What about non-uniform? If magnitude or direction or both are different at different points, then said to be non-uniform. Okay, there's a core central idea. Next, again, sir, like how do see this? What as a student, I suggest you have to think. See, it's not like something. Okay, I know formula. How do it exert force? Because till now in the mechanics, what happen? Like I said, maybe invisible rope is there. This point mass what happen will tie one thread to this, which is not visible for us. Okay, I'll go and check it. There's no any physical entity here. There's no thread. There's no rod. And a field. And sir, what is that field you're saying? That's what you have to assume. Some color you assume it. So in the entire gravitation chapter, what happened? Body some color, the field some color. Surrounding every object that one. Okay, let's do one thing. So till where this field will exist surrounding a point mass. Okay, let's do one thing. Where field will be 0 at r equal to infinity. So for a point mass, so till where the field will be present, almost till infinity. But where the field will be 0? At r equal to infinity. So what this point mass will do, it will produce its field where till infinity. Means now this test masses, sir, here I'll keep test mass. To explain concept, I made you to think like this. So if you account to this formula, what happened? The field, this yellow color region, till where it will extend, till infinity it will extend. Okay, sir, now are you exerting force on us? Okay, I'm now almost at a distance of say like a 10 kilometer from you. Is I'm exerting force on you? You are sitting in your home. Yes, I'm exerting force. I'm also made up of point masses. I am some body. Will I exert any force on you? Yes, I'm exerting force on you. Sir, moon is exerting force on me. Yes. Moon will also exert force. Planets will exert force on you. Yes, planet will also exert force on you. Sir, then the planet will have any influence. Any planet, I don't know. Uh, what do you say? Some Shukra Graha. Or say like I think Guru Graha something. So where it will give the good education something and you do some Navagraha Puja. Really? Can it happen? Do you get better rank if you do Navagraha Puja? I think some days nowadays parents they called me. I didn't scold it. I just suggested them like see like they're like sir we are going for they see that I'll apply some tilak no. They're thinking that okay I'm support all these things. So they called me. So like a Navagraha dosha is there for my son, uh, my kid. So we are planning for that. Is it advisable? I told like a I told what is that? What is the purpose? No, it's not studying properly. So we are going for Navagraha dosha. I told like so how they are related. We don't any physics formula that so and so planet will exert force, and if you do so and so activity, something will happen. Yes, planet Jupiter, planet Saturn. I'm not saying they'll not exert a force. They'll exert a force. On what they'll exert a force? Okay, let's get into our body. What is the distance between planet and us? Very large, no? We may not experience that force. We may not feel. Okay, let's do one thing. Sir, is it any force acting on cell? Because we are made up of human cells. Yes. Inside the cell, what happen? We have mitochondria, powerhouse of a cell. So that mitochondria will experience a force due to that planet. Yes. And will there be any influence of that force on us? According to the physics, what we know, we say negligible, it will not have any impact. And so then why people are going for that puja? See, something it's related to mind. What all the spiritual science is related to mind. What all we are discussing, the physical science, materialistic science, it is nowhere related to mind. And according to science, there's nothing called like an instrument called as a mind. There's nothing called like an instrument called like a mind. The science is unable to define the mind. And what all we do, all the pujas, no, to purify mind, to make mind powerful. That's what I think. And when we say science is will not accepting that mind is present, I think what all you do puja according to science is not acceptable. Okay, sir, then why you are talking against our Indian culture? I'm not talking against Indian culture. I do read daily Vishnu Sahasranamam. But I will not say that something like a which is because in a physics class I should talk about physics only. So definitely when you ask it scientifically, no, I say that yes, that Navagraha Puja will not help you to get better rank. Sir, how do you can say? Because see like what all that Navagraha Puja is that it is related to something mind. I think some will wear the rings, no, here or on your right or left hand finger. I don't know. That rings will wear some stones will be there, green color, red color, blue color, and some will wear here in your neck some taita something or yantra something. Some will do omas. Some will go to Basra Saraswati Devi temple to get a knowledge. So then how all? See, there are two knowledges are there. You can put it materialistic knowledge, what we are studying, and next is the spiritual knowledge. When you pray to God, you go to Basra temple and you are praying there, what happen? The spiritual knowledge. So what you need now? The materialistic knowledge. And how to obtain materialistic knowledge in clearly in all scriptures define the materialistic knowledge will come by observation and by experimentation. The spiritual knowledge will come by querying yourself about the nature, about the God who is there, of his two different streams. And what we are doing, we are bringing the spiritual methods to gain materialistic knowledge. Not possible. What all the pujas are there, they are related to what? To gain spiritual knowledge. And what we are doing, and we are forcing that mantras, we are manipulating, and we are that what all is there in Bible, Quran, Vedas, what happened, we are trying to manipulate, and we are saying that even you get the materialistic knowledge. But in the scriptures, it is clearly told those who are interested in study of nature make observation of nature. You will get the knowledge of nature, materialistic knowledge. Those who are interested in spiritual knowledge focus on the spiritual aspects. How do the spiritual methods will help you to gain materialistic knowledge? Not possible, no. So what all you wear that ring, okay, that one. What all you do omas to, or what all you visit temple. See, if you go to the pray to God, God will already has said clearly that what you want. You want spiritual knowledge or materialistic knowledge, and yes, they have made a rules. Follow that rules. So God will say like already I said rules. Okay, go and read that rules and follow it. She may help you to realize it, but she will not help you to get a rank. She will not bless you with a rank. She will only bring. She will only help you to get that conditions. Maybe they may. She may introduce a good teacher who will help you a lot, but she will not bless you with a rank. So there's a wrong aspect in India that morning you get up 4:30, then it's like a cosmic time it is where you can have good concentration. Morning, if you get up, you get a good sleep. You don't get good knowledge. Then some people will do pranayama meditation. That is for spiritual world. You look at Japan, Russia, Germany, Italy, all European countries, America. Will they anybody gets up early morning 4:30 and they'll start reading book, or they'll solve SEO problem, or they solve this and all? Nobody know. The life will begin at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Or 8 o'clock is general schools, 9 o'clock is schools everywhere in the world. 9 o'clock it will begin. So it's a wrong concept like early morning, I'll get up, I'll read, I'll get a good rank. You'll get a good sleep. So morning, if you get up, what you should do? You should do physical exercises. How you do yoga, meditation, that is another thing. But don't read early morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock, get up. I think somebody will force you in your home. Read early morning, concentration will increase. Then in India, everyone is reading, no? Why we are not having any discourse inventions? So it's a false propaganda, I feel like. Sleep happily, 5:30. I think the natural wake up time 6 o'clock. I feel okay, 5:30. What will be that? Sleep happily. Sleep is sufficient. Get up, then start working. And our human brain, what when the materialistic knowledge is focused on daytime, we should observe nature. Our nature begins what at 6 o'clock and will end up at 6 o'clock. So what's the best time to acquire knowledge? The daytime, materialistic knowledge. Nowadays we are reading till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. The human brain will not support once the concentration after 8 or 9 o'clock. That's what I feel. Very effective will be the daytime. The daytime is from morning 6 to the evening 6. We are very effective, very productive, you can say. So daytime you sleep, night you wake up. So the body will not cooperate. Finish sure. You'll not become a better scientist. A better engineer, not possible. You have to follow the nature. So these are some things are there. So I'm not against any culture. I'm just telling you this one. The science will come by only observation and interest, not by doing some puja. That much you will not become scientist. You will not become engineer by doing puja. Instead of that, what you spend time in doing meditation. No? Say some I seen somebody like a do pranayama, concentration level will increase. Newton never did pranayama. Einstein never did pranayama. How they are related to this? See, pranayama is something meant for the welfare of your body and psychological thing. Nowhere related to knowledge processing. Okay, if you do exercise pranayama, okay, body will become strong. Psychologically, will be very good. Finish all. But will you get a rank? No. Fine, all of you. So don't link these things with these things. So you want to get a rank? Okay, do think. Take problems. Start thinking on it. Try different methods. Analyze it, you'll get a knowledge. There's the only thing is available for us. Finish all. There's a best situation it has come because we are thinking that some suddenly one day I'll get a knowledge. No, suddenly you'll never get a knowledge. Every day you have to put effort. Every day you have to analyze. Every day you have to think. Same thing with the spiritual knowledge also. Every day you have to analyze, you have to think. Then only you'll climb up. Knowledge is something where you have to gather it. You'll not possess suddenly. Means now anybody can become Einstein. Yes. So then why you didn't become? Maybe I'm not interested to become Einstein. I'm interested to become teacher. So I'm teacher. Got the idea? So what you want to become, it's there in your hands. Put effort and you're going to reach there. So nothing to do with intellectual, memory, your thinking ability, concentration level, nothing is there. You are interested, just make observation in nature, put efforts, analyze, compare things, and grow up. That's what the science is telling. See, if you go for the Western schools and universities, no, if you say I'm intelligent, no, what when they laugh? What do you mean by intelligence? You all the inventions, discoveries have not come by intellectual power. They have come by what? By observation. That's why the research in India, why we are lagging. We do think that only bright students can do research. It's a wrong thing. If you go for Western world, no, Western universities, anybody interested and who are good observers, no, so they're in better research. So we have totally wrong. It's a lot of perceptions, wrong perceptions are there. From that you have to come out. Okay, no. So the idea of field. So what is a as a student, what you should think, sir? How do that point mass will exert a force? How that field will be, and why do that force will act like this only? Nothing wrong. Do think, analyze it. Because as a book, as a teacher, nobody is able to explain. But you can start thinking, no, how do they interact? Because there's a force, and again I'm introducing to the basics of what mechanics. No, that force will accelerate, that force will retard, that force will deviate a charge particle. How it can happen? They're not in contact, and how do that field will exert a force? How do they interact is what you have to, as a student, you are supposed to go, you have to analyze here. As our syllabus, I'll just stop it here only. This is what required. Okay, like this, I introduced the field. So now what we have studied? We have studied the field due to what? Due to point mass. So different shaped objects, what will be the field surrounding it and how it will be? How it will vary with the distance. So that is what we have to, our next topic is. So what is our thing? E bar due to different bodies. So first I'll go for E bar due to thin finite rod. This chapter is very closely linked with the creation, will give you regarding the idea of God, the creation, what is this universe. It's a very basic fundamental chapter. Those who are interested in such things know, like uh, Stephen Hawking's, what all he said, no, black holes, okay, dark matter. So nuclear physics, electrostatics, electromagnetism, Maxwell's equation, and gravitation. These are all the fundamentals, which will help us a lot to understand this universe. So you can explore slowly from here. You are interested, you start reading some material, nothing wrong. Okay, first due to rod. What is our next object? First due to finite rod. So the length of the rod is L, mass of the rod Bm. At a distance x, at a distance r, will write it. Let me write it. At point P, I want the field due to rod. What is this rod? Mass m length L. It's like a thin rod, like a refill, the pen refill. So what is the gravitational field at a distance A from one end of the rod? Is what we are asking that one. But what all we have formula is for what? Only for point mass, no? This is a rod. So what do? I'll assume a small element. What is the mass of this small element? dm. At a distance x, let the length of the element be dx. Let this point mass be at a distance x, that one. What is the field due to this? The field due to this will be dE, like this. So what is the value of d? No, g dm by x square. Just now the formula. This one. What is dm? Lambda dx. What is the lambda? Mass per unit length. In what region the mass is present? From x equal to, this is x equal to 0. Limits, if I put it, it will be like this, no? X equal to a plus l. So the mass is distributed from x equal to a to a plus l. So g lambda What is lambda? Lambda is m by L. So Gm by A plus L. So there is a field strength at point P due to that rod. And now it will be directed towards left. Now what is the use of this? What is the use of this? What is the use of this? So here is what? The field strength. No? I'll assume let there be a test mass here. Or let there be a test mass here. So what is the force exerted by this rod on the test mass? Or what is the force exerted by the point mass, by the test mass on this one? What is the mass or point mass? And anything it will be. What is the force of interaction? This is a rod, this is a point mass, no? So I think this method will help us here. So what is the force experienced by it? F should be equal to m into EP. This is m G capital M. This is the force of interaction between point mass and the rod. So what is this force? Force exerted by the rod on the particle. Will the particle also, point mass also will exert same force on the rod? Yes, it is. In what direction? Towards left. But the rod is not at one point. Yes. You calculate the total force acting on the rod. Again, it will be same this one. So what is this F we should call? Force exerted by rod on particle or by particle on the rod. Both are same. Which one is easier? I'll just assume that the particle present in the field of the rod have found out. Or else what you can do? You can assume that the rod present in the field of point mass or the particle, then calculate, you'll get the same answer. I agree this. I think now if I release it, what will happen? The particle will accelerate. Okay, now I'll ask you, what is the center of mass? What happened to center of mass of system? Will not shift. Will not shift center of mass. Why it will shift? Because that particular force will be equal and opposite, no? Where you have to show that F, better show F at the center of mass of the body. So what is the net force acting on system? Zeros. So particle and the rod, if they're set free, they'll start moving. What happened to center of mass? Will not shift. So you can bring all the ideas of center of mass here. Net force acting on system 0. Then what will happen? Center of mass will not shift. So if the rod moves by some distance or pen, the particle also will move. Then you can use the formula m1x1 equal to m2 x2. So now it's a unlimited way of asking things. Just don't confine to gravitation. I can bring whatever concept I can introduce. All the mechanics ideas I can. Only thing is the force F is a field force. It's not a contact force. Though the particle and rod are not in contact, they'll exert force on each other. Agree this? Just think over it. I'll have a water. Okay, fine. So this is about the E due to finite rod. What is the direction of that? It will be towards left here. Next, we'll go for the next condition. So like this now, what is all our discussion, the initial part? Different shaped body. What about the field? Means what you should assume. Shall we assume a field here also? So if you are interested, you can show that yellow color line. Till where? Till infinity in all directions. You should assume that yellow color region surrounding it. The imagination is what needed. Yes, I think in our books they're not showing. If you take some Resnick and Alde or any other book, no, they show some that particular cloud, so to make the imagination the field. This is very much as if you take the color print, no, if you make observation, they show that particular field here surrounding it. Now next again, let me go back to the point mass, test mass. So this point mass will produce field. What about test mass? Yes, what is the idea of test mass? Test mass or pen will not produce field of its own. But sir, like you only said any mass according to this formula should produce field. This is a hypothetical imaginary thing. So what is the mass of it? Negligible. Delta M tends to 0. So it will not produce field of its own. That's called like a test mass. Are you getting the idea? So why the test mass concept is not to have a clarity that what all that field is only due to point mass. If I keep point here like a some instead of M0, if I write say some M1, then it will also produce field. Since we want to study the field due to point mass, so I should bring a particle which will not produce its own field. Sir, is it possible such a thing? Imaginary, hypothetical, just imaginary that one. So what is this test mass? Okay, it's a point mass of negligible magnitude, of negligible mass, or it will not produce field of its own, or will not produce. There's a method they have brought it to understand things, to make things very simple. Got it idea, no? So whenever the idea of test mass comes, so you need not to bother the field due to test mass. Now, force of interaction between the rod and particle. As from slowly from particle, now we are bringing to the between the particle and the body, that one. Let's take the next condition. And this is a rod, finite rod. I want the magnitude at point P. So what is this? Let L be the length of the rod. Carefully, and let M, so I'll define linear mass density of the rod. It's a thin rod. Instead of asking somewhere here on the axis here, no, I'm asking it is a certain perpendicular distance D at point P. What is the field strength?
Sawalaki.
Get into this one. What we have to, we need one formula, no? How to generate that formula is what we have to think here. So what is the method? I'll assume a elemental mass, elemental strip. Okay, so we'll assume elemental strip. So let this be equal to dy. So let it be at a distance phi. Let this be theta. This angle subtended, let it be d theta. First, we'll find out due to this small element. Then what will happen? What is the mass of this? dm. This is. So let it be at a distance r. How the field will be? How the field will be directed? The field will be directed like this, no? dE. And it's a vector, no? dE bar is a vector. Okay, we have to give a generalized formula, that one. And prior to that, the ends will also subtend an angle. Meanwhile, you continue. I'll just modify the diagram. Yeah. Now you can see this. These are the ends. I'll show in another diagram. It will become very messy. Everything will be messed up here. Now, what are these things? Alpha, beta. This is the total length of the rod. This is a lambda. So what I do, I will draw a line joining the ends to the point P. And that particular line will subtend an angle alpha and beta with this perpendicular distance what we are measuring. And this is a point P. What is a dm? Dm, what we can define lambda into dy. First, due to this, what is the field strength at point P due to this small element dm. So that will define it. So that is equal to dE is equal to g dm by r. This is a magnitude. In vector form, dE bar, two components will be there, no? One x component, other will be the y component. So here we'll define the coordinate system. X, let this be y. So this will be dE x bar g dm. Just mathematics, nothing to do. R square dE. So what is this cos theta? Shall we write cos theta I cap? Further, g dm, what we can write it as lambda into dE bar. A component of field will be there along negative x-axis. The other component will be there along y-axis. Component of dE bar along x-axis, dE cos theta. Component of dE bar along y-axis will be dE sin theta. Agreed? This? No. We have to lambda, let it be. So lambda is given for us rather than mass and length. Usually lambda will be defined for us. So g lambda is defined. Shall I integrate? What is the biggest problem? For different elements, you assume different elements. If element is here, what is theta? Will vary. So theta is a constant or variable. And look at that one. If element is here, what is the value of r? R will change. If the element, if you bring it here, what is theta? Theta 0 and r will become d. And as you move here, r again will increase, will be greater than d. So is it r constant or variable? Yes, r is variable. Theta variable. What about dy? Yes, dy also is a variable. I can assume a length, elemental length of different lengths. No? So dy cos theta are three variables are there. This is unknown. We can integrate only when unknown in LHS, one no variable in RHS. But we have three variables. So therefore, I should search for possible mathematics. I should look for some possible mathematics where one unknown in LHS, one variable in RHS. Yes, we can simplify things here. Agreed. I think there's a one method water. So now search for what possible mass you can bring it here. So tan theta equal to y by d. The first some mathematics I'll bring it. Let me bring from corner here. Tan theta equal to y by d. Y equal to d tan theta. I'll differentiate this. dy is equal to okay, now I'm bringing like this dy. Okay, next again regarding r, cos theta equal to d by r, or r equal to d secant theta. Let me substitute all this. dE bar equal to minus G lambda. dy will be d secant square theta d theta cos theta I cap. R square will be G lambda. Let's see, secant square theta d square, this everything will end up, will have minus G lambda by d cos theta. I think it's good, no? Everything we brought in terms of only G lambda, they're constant. G lambda, they are constant, only theta, d theta. So I want the field now due to upper part, the field at point P due to upper part of the rod. So theta, what happened, will vary from 0 to alpha. So what is this? This is the theta equal to 0 degree line. This is the theta equal to 0 degree line. No, if I vary theta from 0 to plus alpha, I'll get the field at point P due to upper part of the rod. If I vary the theta from d theta from 0 to minus beta. Why minus beta? I'm measuring opposite to alpha. Then I'll get the field at point P due to lower part of the rod. So what should be the limit now? So the limits here will be dE bar equal to minus G lambda d theta. And nothing to do all this, like it's all about the mathematical skills. Just how good you are in your utilizing your mathematical skills. So what should be the limit now? The limit will become minus beta to plus alpha. Let me write E bar, the resultant E bar. Why the limit should be like this? Because d theta, if you vary from 0 to plus alpha, you get the field at point P due to upper part. If you vary from 0 to minus beta, you'll get the field at point P due to lower part here. So next again, solving this is equal to minus G lambda. I cap is there, no? Here. Let me keep I cap here. So integral of cos theta sine theta minus beta plus alpha. Integral of sine theta minus cos theta minus beta plus alpha. The final equation will be E bar is equal to G lambda d sine alpha plus sine beta I cap cos minus cos alpha. So this will be cos beta minus cos alpha j cap. Okay, so this will be minus cos alpha minus cos beta. Cos of minus beta will be cos beta only. Look at this. So there's a one equation what we have ended up here. So if you can remember this, you'll be in better position so that any numericals you can solve comfortably. This is due to E bar field due to finite rod. Just notice, I'll scroll down. We'll keep this formula in hand. Okay, let's go for application. This is a theory and nobody will ask you to derive this, but you should know how to use this formula. And the first one, so let me go for infinite rod. Or select a on the bisector, we'll find out first. What about the field on the bisector? So what do you mean by bisector? There's a finite rod. So exactly on the bisector, there's a length L by 2, linear mark density is lambda. At point P, I want the field. On the bisector, alpha should be equal to beta. On the bisector, alpha should be equal to beta. So what should be the resultant field? How it should be? So we'll cross verify whether our formula is right or wrong. We have to cross verify, no? So let's assume two small elements. See whether mathematically anywhere we are missing some terms, we should be able to identify, no? So here due to this, the field will be like this, and due to this, the field will be. So how the field? So DE and this will be DE, no? Two symmetrical elements, I assumed it. So what is the net field? Net field should be only along x-axis. Are you sure? The y components will cancel out. I assume two symmetrical elements. So let me take say some phi. Let's use this formula. Alpha equal to beta because symmetry is there. L by 2, L by 2. So as I'm very sure alpha equal to beta. So there's no problem with I cap, but J cap, there should not be y component, no? There should not be y component. And how I'm measuring beta? Alpha and beta. So this is alpha and this is beta. So what I'm getting again is non-zero, no? But I know the field will be only towards that. For a finite rod, the net field here will be I'm very sure it should be like this. And I'll make things a little bit still more easier. So let this be L by 2. So that alpha and beta will become equal to how much? 45 degrees. No. There's a lambda. Okay, now you tell me what should be the field. The field at point P will be only due to what? Due to the x component. But when I go here, what is the problem I'm arising? I'm getting even y component also, but I'm very sure that only x component. So something we have to really cross check things where we are not getting suitable thing here. What is the part which we have to take care? Cos beta. Somebody is. Yeah. Last step, it plus b, it must be plus cos beta. Minus cos alpha. Okay, that one, yeah. Fine. Okay, now you see that. See, because this is a generalized formula, there should not be any error because all our numericals will revolve around it. So just we are cross-checking whether our formula is right or wrong. If your formula is right, then okay, I'll go for all the application because everything now what all I do just based on this formula. It's a generalized formula, I'll write it. Generalized formula for rod, for thin rod. No, I think justified alpha equal to minus cos alpha plus cos beta. Come 0 and the net will be this much. So what is the field at point P, no? According to this formula, minus G lambda L by 2 sine 45 plus sine 45 I cap. So minus 2G lambda L 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2 will be root 2. What is the direction? I cap. So this will be minus 2 root 2 G lambda L I cap. Finish sure? It's all about the formula. Again, no need to take small element, integrate, solve, big headache, no? Directly take help of that formula. So due to finite rod on the bisector, what is the field is given by how much? 2 root 2 G lambda by, I assume that length L by 2. If they give some other length, then it will become in terms of alpha beta. But altogether, it generalized. I think alpha beta on a bisector, alpha beta will cancel out. On a bisector means what happened? On a bisector, what happened? Alpha should be equal to beta. So this J component will not be there. Only X component will be there. So all these are some small applications which will go for it. Okay, next after this, we'll take another one. No, a finite rod got over. No, infinite rod. Long rod it is. E bar E due to long rod. Now where I'm asking field? Anywhere here. What is the field at a distance D? I'll bring that formula. Let me keep this formula in the corner. Okay, all of you able to see this? Yeah. No, apply the things. What do you mean by long rod? Alpha and beta will be infinity. Alpha and beta will be infinity. So I think here I'm showing finite, but practically what happened? Alpha and beta will almost tends to infinity here. So it will be like this. Because at infinity they should meet, no? So what is alpha? Alpha and beta. Alpha will be 90. Beta will be 90. If alpha and beta are 90, so then what is the net field? The net field E bar will be is equal to minus G lambda D sine 90 plus sine 90 I cap say any formula you derive, no, once cross check for any one condition, then it'll become, you'll be very sure about this. So this will be 1 plus 1 I cap, this will be 0. This quantity will become 0. So this will become minus 2G lambda by D I cap. I have another easy method. I'll show it later on in the end. No need to do all this much of calculation. So what is the field due to long rod or infinite rod where the end will go to infinity? What is the formula? Minus 2G lambda by D. And I will be directed towards left here. Towards the rod. It should be towards rod. But sir, is it a bisector? I think please do have common sense. Long rod, no? So is it point P, sir, on a bisector? For infinite rod, wherever you keep that point P, it will be what like? Bisector only, as it is infinite. After this, there's a long rod or infinite rod it is. Rod of infinite length. Next, we'll go for semi-infinite rod. Semi-infinite, one end will be there at infinity, other end is at origin, and it's having a lambda at a distance d. I'm asking, so what is about the field strength? So let me define the axis here. So this shall we call semi-infinite. With one end at origin here. So we have to calculate the field at point P. Again, we have to stick on to that formula. I'll bring that formula into the picture. Later on, open, you can see that okay, start using that formula. But sir, here, what is alpha beta? What is alpha beta? What are alpha beta? Angles subtended by the ends with the perpendicular distance. So again, once again, we'll bring that alpha betas here. So this will be one thing will go. So what is almost alpha? Alpha is here 90 degrees. What about beta? Beta will be zero, no? So the other one, other red color line is this one only. So what is the angle beta? Will be zero, no? So in the problem, alpha will be 90, beta will be 0 degrees. So let me substitute that particular formula, E equal to minus G lambda D sine 90 sine 0 I cap cos 90 plus cos 0 degrees G cap. And this will be minus G lambda D I cap G lambda D G cap. Very important. So what is telling, there are two components are there, one I component, other J component, and their magnitudes are equal. So rather than remembering like this, no, I'll go for still more better way. Look at the I component, how it will be perpendicular to the rod, and look at the J cap parallel to the rod. So therefore what I do, here afterwards, if I get a semi-infinite rod, rather than in terms of I cap, J cap, let's generalize it. There's a rod, there's a point P, one component will be perpendicular to it. The other component will be, so like other component will be parallel to it. The resultant of these two is what? The net field. And how the net field it will be? Will make an angle 45 degrees. If this is a rod, so what is E parallel? Should be equal to G lambda D. Say for numericals, we need to think this one, then I cap, J cap, because the orientation of rod can change. The orientation of rod can change, no? Two components, and their components, their magnitudes will be different here. So what about the rough direction? What about the direction it will make? Shall I say it will make an angle 45 degrees? It must make 45 or any other angle. It must make 45 degrees. When I show infinity means it's very long. It's a very long, that one. Other end finite. So what is the angle made by the other end with the line perpendicular distance D will be zero, no? So beta tends to zero, alpha tends to 90 degrees. And what is the magnitude? It will make 45 degrees equal. So I want only magnitude. If I want only magnitude, shall we say that G lambda D root 2. I need to make an angle of 45 degree with this one. So the rod can be oriented in any way. We must be in a position to identify it. So like this, I think different shaped structures will come. You should be in a better position to analyze here. I'll scroll down, make observation. If there's a rod, first we'll define the and there are two rods are there. There one rod is oriented along y-axis, other rod oriented along x-axis. So let me take lambda. 8 point P, which is at a distance. I want the field strength at that particular point. Oh, no. Wait. No, this one. So I'll just take it out this. Now I'm coming with a very good numerical. Let's see that how you analyze. Not here. No, I'm bringing that particular point here. Let me take this is 30 degrees. At point P, I want the field. I'll just slightly move up. This end is infinity. This end is at finite. Look at somewhere I brought other way, no? So what all we did earlier was here, no? What is the field strength here or here? Okay, we can tell it. Or here also we can tell it. But something I brought it here. So this end is finite, this is infinity. So the question is find E bar at point P due to semi-infinite rod. With one end at origin, the other end is at infinity. Okay, you can see in the diagram itself. Okay, how you manage. Again, we'll take help of that formula because I think because that formula maximum we are trying to what like we are trying to utilize it maximum to maximum extent. What when we'll use that formula, will be on safer side. Okay, no, you have in front of you formula. What is alpha beta? See, the whole idea is like what is alpha beta is what we have to search. So I'll give a rough diagram. It'll go like this, no? Till infinity, it'll go like this. Now, with what I should measure that alpha beta, no? This is infinity. This is lambda. This distance is what they're given A, and this is 30 degrees. If this is 30, this will be 30. Okay, we'll put it here now. This 30, I think, okay, I'll indicate 30 there. Huh? You'll get confused here. Let's see that. So what is first, sir, what is alpha beta? I think this should be the alpha. Alpha with what you should measure? Alpha you are going to measure with perpendicular, not with this. You should measure like this. Huh? This is alpha. And this is beta. Getting now? And what is the perpendicular distance? The perpendicular distance is what? This one. R perpendicular, I'll write. In the formula, the D is what? Is R perpendicular. Or you can put D here. What is given? A is given, not D. At a distance C. So we should calculate that D, that one. So first we'll calculate the D. So what is the value of D will be? Cos. In mobile, if you can turn it, if you want, you can rotate it. No problem. Cos beta, cos 30 should be equal to D by A. So D equal to A cos 30. A root 3 by 2. So where all D is there, I should replace that one. So what is alpha now? Alpha is 90.
So the sine 30 is d by a.
Oh, okay, so sine 30, no? Yeah. So this will be sine 30. So A by 2 will come. So what is D is equal to? Just A by 2. Keep it here. What is alpha? Alpha is 90. Beta will be 60, no? I'll write minus 60. Why? Because if you measure beta opposite to alpha, you have to put that as positive. If you measure beta in the direction of alpha, then you have to put a negative sign. So why you are doing like this here? What is the reason behind? So you go back to the convention. So how we measured beta? If you measure, I took alpha positive. If I measure, I'll measure alpha like this. I took this positive. I measured beta opposite to alpha. That's why I took negative. And already negative of negative I substituted here. Like this. Means now in all the numericals. So there's a convention. Next again you go for, please make observation carefully. Come for this and this one. Look at carefully sign here now. Now alpha is what? Positive, no? Beta, when I measure opposite to alpha, I took positive. I agreed? See here. Beta. I think I can able to notice all of you. Green color I'm shading it. What the convention says? If you measure beta opposite to alpha, it should be negative. In the limits we put it, but after putting limits, then when we're using that formula, what is the thing? If you measure beta opposite to alpha, it should be positive. If you measure beta in the direction of alpha, you should take that negative, because in the limits we made minus beta to plus alpha. So when you're using this formula, what it says? If you measure beta opposite to alpha, beta will be positive. If you measure beta in the direction of alpha, beta should be negative. Got it idea? So why you are doing this? To justify my answers practically. The mathematics is what? The way I'm using like this. Okay, now take this one. Okay, how we are measuring beta now? Beta I'm measuring in the direction of alpha. So what should be the beta? Minus 60. So substitute everything in the formula, you'll get the required answer. So what is the field? Just observation, nothing else is there. Let me write the answer. So the field strength at point P. Okay, now look at this. Sir, like here, high cap, J cap, because how the rod was oriented? The rod was oriented along y-axis, no? When we derive this. But what about here? It is oriented along x-axis. So how do that I cap, J cap you are going to use? What is this I cap term? The one which is perpendicular to rod, no? And what about this J cap term? One which is parallel to the rod. Things will change here. Things will change here. So therefore, what you should do here, according to this formula, what is this? This will indicate the component perpendicular to the rod. What about this? This will indicate the component parallel to the rod. Now you are going to calculate this one. Here, what when you should write J cap, not I cap. Are you getting now? So you can't just use blindly the formula here, because the orientation of rod, what we derived for y-axis, no, the rod was along y-axis. Now the rod I made along x-axis. Intentionally I made so that you should notice that. So when you're using this formula was derived with rod oriented along what? Along y-axis. So therefore, what is this component? Perpendicular to the rod. So therefore, so instead of I cap, what you should write? One which will be directed perpendicular to the rod. What about this? One which is directed parallel to the rod. So slightly, I'll change it here only. So what is this component now will be parallel we are bringing. Now, what is the perpendicular will become J cap, parallel will become I cap. This will be y-axis, this is x-axis, no? So how parallel perpendicular component will be along y-axis, parallel unit vector will be along. I think problem to problem it will change. So we are made still more very generalized one. It is still more better, not I cap J cap along that one here. So what is the now component which is perpendicular? J cap. So the formula now will further reduce it. So y minus G, I think this should also not be there, no? This negative sign will not come. Minus, say like, how do you can say all this one, sir? Say, just use, say, now take this a magnitude. Huh? So it's very simple, sir. How do you can say that it will be like this only? So you do one thing, you assume a small element here. Due to this small element, how the field will be somewhere like this, no? So therefore, it is going to have two components, one J cap, other I cap. This will be a perpendicular component, this is a parallel component. I'm making still more very, very, very generalized here. So what you should do here afterwards, you have to remember just the magnitude perpendicular to the rod, parallel to the rod. Depending upon the orientation, that J cap, I cap has to be introduced. Got the idea? The general application of the formula you have to run. So this will not come. So in place of D, what will be there now? In place of D, what will be there? D is equal to A by 2. Because A is given for us, not D, no? So therefore, I'll write A by 2. Sine alpha, sine 90, sine of minus 60. This should be equal to parallel perpendicular component. Keep it here now. So next again. Cos 90. So let's simplify 2g lambda by A sine 91 root 3 by 2 I cap cos 90 0 cos 60 will be 1 by 2. So I think this will become only okay. There's a magnitude of so there's a gravitational field strength. It will be this much. And say my answer justified, sir, because then field what happen, how it will be directed. You take small element, how the field will be directed like this, no? The field will be directed here. So it should be in XY plane. I think justified. This is J cap. Those things I'll indicate. This is E bar. This is the best formula you remember. The generalized formula. I think this is far more better than the earlier what we have this one. So now look at the beta alpha. I think you have to be careful also with sino. If beta measured opposite to alpha, beta will be positive. Beta measured in the direction of alpha, beta should be negative. Same thing alpha. If alpha measured opposite to beta, alpha will be positive. If alpha is measured opposite to in the direction of beta, alpha should be taken negative. Okay, do practice. Just orient the rod in different things, semi-infinite, finite, and work out here. I'll give some assignment based on the rods only. Today you can work out. Because in books, very less problems are there. Okay, I'll wind up the class.
I have a doubt, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, before there was minus g lambda by d, no, sir. Why did you remove that minus, sir?
That was to show that it was along negative x-axis. No. See, don't think now mathematically here. This particular, the field at this point will be what? You will have two components, no? Dex and Dy. That's why that minus I cap is brought. Now, if you make this rod along positive x-axis, tell me, like, do you get minus I cap? Should not be there, no? So I should modify that also. Okay, got this? So I think the best formula is what you better to remember than this one, than the earlier one. No, this is a very generalized formula. See what we derived with the rod oriented along y-axis. If the rod gets oriented along x-axis, so same formula. See, magnitude is same, but the directions we have to be a little bit careful. So how to do that one is better assume small element here. Due to the small element, how the field here will be like this. No? So therefore, so there'll be perpendicular component should be along y-axis, parallel component should be along x-axis. That's what we are bringing it here. It was along negative x-axis. It all depends upon the orientation. It came due to that particular orientation. Now the orientation is along x-axis, so no sign will be there. Just now I explained. Or else you do one thing, derive this, you will end up with this formula. So we are unable to understand. So derive this, you'll end up the same formula. Okay, I'll wind up the class. Okay, thank all of you. Take care. Bye. See you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.